Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, so I accidentally made a really powerful discovery that will clear up a lot of confusion around narcissist abuse and why they are the way they are. And as usual, the music will go down probably in about 2.5 minutes. Okay, so I'm actually really excited about this video because what happened was, okay, so the last video really was the first part of it, and that led me into something that I didn't realize I was going. It's like I was going down this path, and I finally started saying something, and as I was saying it, about a minute or two into it, I started realizing what it was. I don't know how to say this, like what's going on. Like it suddenly makes sense. Like all of a sudden look at narcissists like, oh, that actually makes sense. I'm going to kind of hint, your heaven is literally their nightmare, and their heaven is your nightmare or your hell. And this all has to do with how people unconsciously go into rapport with each other, etc., and we take on other people's energy and how they mirror you. That's kind of a complicated thing, but essentially we become each other on accident. And when they become you, they flip out. But here's the deal. When they drug us into their nightmare, it flipped us out too, though. So just this video took one hell of a turn. Alright, so here's the deal. There's something called parts integration. Okay, so that's an NLP or maybe hypnosis term. It's where two separate parts that used to be one whole complete part together, just one part, got divided. Well, we do something called parts integration where we bring the two together and now they become one again. Not two separate parts, but one part. And in other words, they integrate, okay? And then we bring it back inside into the whole, okay? So in energy healing, we call it like charges, where we integrate or heal the charges. Now, I'm going to explain this. So essentially, how to explain this? Okay, so narcissists are the extreme left brain. Empaths, we are very right brain. We're so right brain we can sense stuff that other people can't. So the right brain is very spiritual, the left brain is not. So people that are very left brain, they stay safe as long as they stay far in the left brain. Now they don't get to feel emotions because they don't want to feel emotional hurt. The problem with that is the left brain is the logical brain. It's in the box. So the right brain processes the 5 senses. See, hear, feel, smell, and taste. So it's in the present moment, the reality brain. And it's funny because logical people are always given reality people shit saying, oh, you're not logical, you're not in reality, whereas logic is not reality at all. It's like looking under a microscope, completely disconnected from reality, as in 99.7% disconnected from all reality. So narcissists go all the way left and empaths go all the way right, but we can be logical too, because that's kind of the thing. Like most empaths can be fairly logical. But the point being is, there are things that we had to learn. Like we had to learn, like, oh, wait a minute, not everyone we meet is nice. So we always want to believe, well, everyone's just like us. No, they are not. But guess what? The narcissist thinks the same thing. But on the opposite scale. So we think everyone's nice and has good intentions, and that's a really good thing. A realization is, we believe everyone comes into meeting a new person with good intentions, but here's the deal. You learned, no, narcissists do not have good intentions at all. But here's the deal. On the other end of the scale, they think that everybody is like them, and everyone comes to the table with bad intentions, like, I'm going to screw you over. So they view everything through that light. Whereas we view everything through the light of love, like, oh, everyone has good intentions. Oh, well, they meant well when they didn't intend or mean well at all. Now, I believe I said this about 3 years ago in a couple of videos, but I have had this gut feeling that because we're so opposite, it's like we are two separate parts that was meant to integrate and become one whole and complete. In other words, we were supposed to heal things in us that we didn't even know needed to be healed. Like admit it. The reason why the narcissist took advantage of you, because instead of going, wow, you're a real rude son of a bitch, I'm never talking to you again. No, instead you made up excuses for them. Well, everyone has good intentions, and they mean well, and they must have had a bad day. Like, you made up excuse after excuse for them. Well, they're probably tired and probably cranky, and yet this person just like literally, I had a story where a guy literally cut my leg with a knife at a high school dance, and somebody pointed him out. I think it was like a week later. Like, yeah, that's the guy that stabbed you in the leg. I went up and gave him a hug. Because he didn't mean to cut me. Yeah, he did. Admit it, for empaths, we have such a hard time believing that somebody had an intention to hurt us, even after they did it. So that's our challenge. We have to see people for who they are versus looking through this filter of everyone's good, everyone's loving, everyone's blah. No, that's just not reality. Whereas narcissists, they're on the complete other end of things, and I do believe it's probably a lot harder because they think that everyone's trying to get them. They think that everyone's everyone's screwing everyone over, and so they think it's a kill or be killed world. So here's the deal: they've damaged a lot of innocent people. They have hurt a lot of really, really good people who cared about them and loved them and had nothing but good intentions for them. Because who do narcissists go after? Well, they go after the nicest people in the world. Empaths. So our reality is we have to wake up to the fact that we've been extremely naive to some really dangerously violent, dangerous people that have harmed us severely, and we have to just face up to it and just see, like, wow, like, how did I not see that? Whereas narcissists, they have to look in the mirror and be like, how many people did I get fired from their jobs? How many families did I make go homeless? How many people did I push over the edge to commit suicide? How many people did I poison? How many people did I gang stalk? How many people's lives did I totally, completely ruin and destroy who are nothing but good people, who are pure, innocent, kind, loving people? And the reason why I got to destroy them is because they were fairly naive and very innocent people. So when they came into your reality of love and harmony and peace and, whoa, life's amazing, like, they had to go, wait a minute, not everybody's like me. And then they started looking back. Okay, you know how when you went into the Great Wall of China, where you had to realize, oh my God, my mother, my father, when I was a teenager, my best friend was a narcissist. And you started, your brain started going back in all your memories, one by one by one. And you started realizing all these people that were mean to you, that were narcissists, that did all the most messed up things. And you had to start seeing them for who they are and realize, wow, these were not good people at all. Well, the memories a narcissist goes through is the complete opposite. They're having to realize they damage physically, spiritually, emotionally people that never did anything to them at all. That is a much harder reality, realizing, like, I set that person up to get beat up. I did this to this person. I damaged that person's car. I completely drugged this person. I poisoned this person. I mean, do you realize, like, they're going, wait a minute, those people didn't do anything to me, and I did everything to them. That's what they're going back in their history and their memory, looking back at all the things that they did to people. That's got to be a lot harder reality to face. Now, that's not even the discovery. It is a part of the discovery, and it is a result of the discovery, but I'm just going to start playing where I was in the video, and I'm just going to stop this here, and so this video, that where we're going to start is where I started from the last video. So I separated the two because this is a completely separate subject. Okay, so I want to complete these thoughts I have here. So basically, here's what's going on. You have, everything I've talked about comes down to two things. There's those who are open, and there's those who are closed. There are those who believe, and there are those who don't. I mean, I could continue doing this because it's the same thing taught in many different ways, meaning different terminologies. So you could say left brain versus right brain, internal versus external. I mean, these are all talking about the exact same thing. Hello, hola. I mean, we can use, like, I can't remember what in Chinese it says, something like ni hao ma. I think that's thank you very much, actually, or how are you doing. All right, so let me bring a couple things up. So let me bring up that verse again. And that verse was Luke 1:37. For nothing will be impossible with God. In the King James Version it says, for with God nothing shall be impossible. So Jesus says, if ye believe, you shall receive whatever you ask for in prayer. And then there's the one where he says, say unto this mountain, throw yourself unto the ocean, and it shall be so. So I just found this in the very early stage of the Magic of Believing in one of the pre-pages. And at the very top all by itself says, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. Mark 9:23. So when I read this stuff, I actually believe it. I mean, it literally smacks me upside the head. And I'm going to tell you something. There really is two kinds of people on the planet. There's those that believe, and then there's those that just don't. But there's a reason for it. In most of the sports I competed in, I was a fairly small guy. And it never stopped me. I just knew that I was going to win. And I knew that even in the very beginning, when you first start a sport, you generally get your ass kicked, especially in practice. And you do improve, especially if you work hard. And I really did, because I knew I could get better. And that's it right there. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that if I practiced, and really focused and really pushed myself, I was going to get better. And I always did. So the first 6 months to the first year of any sport was always pretty tough because you pretty much got your ass kicked. So then there's the other people who they already know, well, it's not possible, I can't do this, and they'll explain why. They'll literally give you the reason why they can't succeed at something. So the minute someone tells me that, I don't argue with them, I just agree with them, because I believe them, because they're right. This is what they think, this is what they believe, and that's what they're going to produce. So there's no reason to disagree with those people. Just be like, yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for you. Sorry to hear that, man. Good luck. So I shared the story a while back. He was a pastor, a very famous pastor. He had a lot of power, and don't want to go to. It's not Pastor Rex. It was just a different pastor. Big church, but he also was the head of this huge organization, which was in another city, Christian organization, and so. I remember one day he called me in to talk because I was going through my awakening and I was great, but I was like, what is this? So part of my realization was there's a lot of people in church that don't actually believe. And it was really shocking to me. And I had marked all these verses that Jesus said, and most of the ones that you just read, and then some of the other ones from, what was that, Luke? I forget. Hold on, let me find it. Yeah, Luke 1:37, then the other one from the book, Mark 9:23. And so I had all these different things that Jesus had said. And I remember when I got to the one where I said, so Jesus says, if you believe, you shall receive whatever you ask for in prayer. Now I'm saying this to the pastor of this huge church and organization. And he kind of nods, was, well, yeah. And I said, and right off, I think this was the third or fourth one, but then I said, and I don't have it memorized perfectly, but it's the one where he says, if you say unto this mountain, throw yourself unto the ocean, and it shall be so. And then he goes, well, Mike, I really think that's a metaphor. I don't think, and this is what he said, and this really kind of kicked me in the teeth. He goes, I don't think Jesus really meant what he said. And I looked at him like, what? This had a life-changing impact on me. I mean, it was literally like he hit me in the gut with a sledgehammer, because I'm looking up to this pastor of this great church, thinking, well, this guy's got to be a believer, and he wasn't. So then I happened to just see the night before where Jesus says, mean what you say and say what you mean, and I marked that in my Bible, and I looked at him and I go, what? And then I immediately flipped that. I go, well, what about when Jesus says right here, mean what you say and say what you mean? And then the pastor looked at me, he leans back, he goes, okay. Like, this was the first time in his life that he had this realization, like, oh, I never noticed that. Not just that verse, but, like Jesus literally meant what he said. So, I guess the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm trying to ask you guys something. Do you really believe? I'm not saying right now in this moment you're so conscious that you can manifest something, but I mean, do you believe that if you get into that state of mind, if you can access that it can actually happen? Because a lot of people will just say words and, oh, I believe in Jesus, I believe, like, do you really? Are you sure? Like, do you really believe? Because there's people that say it, but they don't actually believe it. I've had people in church go, oh, you're crazy. Oh, that's crazy. I'm like, well, no, actually, Jesus says it right here. I mean, you're a Christian, right? And you're in church with me, and you proclaim to be this believer. And yet, I can't tell you how many times people look, well, Michael, you're kind of taking it a little bit too far. No, I don't think I'm taking it too far at all. I think Jesus literally meant what he said. So in sports, you really begin to see the difference between those who believe and don't believe. Because those who believe get better and better and better and better and better and better. And those who don't, well, they just kind of show up and hang out and practice a little bit. They don't really push themselves. And they'll even say things like, there's this one guy in wrestling practice. I'm like, why don't you push yourself? Why don't you work hard? Why don't you pick one technique and go over and over and over and over and over? Do it every day for 20 minutes. I guarantee you're going to master that technique. He goes, it's not going to make any difference. I'm not going to get any better. I'm like, well, that's just the thing, because you believe that. And that's why he wouldn't push himself. That's why he wouldn't practice hard. And you know what? He was right. He never got any better. He just kind of sort of learned stuff. Alright, so let's bring up a couple other things. So, life is kind of rife with this stuff, and here's what I mean. You can go back to the Wright brothers, right? So, with the Wright brothers, people literally... So, here, what happened was someone found out that they were trying to make a plane to fly, and what ended up happening is they went and told, like, the police, and then they got some doctors involved, and they literally were going to come and get them, capture them, and literally lock them up in an insane asylum, because they're like... People can't fly. Only birds can do that. So then in the Book of the Magic of Believing, I'm on page 56. This is the orange book with like the orange sun or whatever in the middle. And they're talking about beliefs and stuff. And it says right here, consider how many new principles were developed in World War II. As this is written... The American Rocket Society has made applications to the United States government to land on the moon. Perhaps the application was made in a spirit of facetiousness, but who knows when some Buck Rogers will pilot a rocket plane to the moon. I, for one, wouldn't say it couldn't be done someday, for I don't know... Sorry, the light's not good here. For I don't know neither those who say it is impossible. Oh no, he says, I don't know, and neither do those who say it's impossible. Now, the book was written in 1948, so back then they didn't believe you could go to the moon, and if you said anything like that, like, oh, you're crazy, you're dumb, you're weird, and people will just beat you down, and yet, we got to outer space all the time. Here's some money for you. So essentially, here's what's going on. You've got left brain people. That's in the box. The right brain is the open brain. You ever heard someone say, hey man, be open-minded? Well, that's the right brain. So essentially, here's what happens. We've got some left brain people that literally cannot think outside of the box. They don't have as many neurological connections to the right brain. So the door, they either voluntarily close it themselves, because, and a lot of men do this, they're very afraid to face reality. Reality is a scary thing. Funny thing is, it's the women that face reality. But what do men say? That's not logical. That's not in my little box. Therefore, it's not real. And they've been accusing women for centuries, literally, of not being in reality, when it's actually women are the ones that are in reality. Because the right brain is about being in the present moment. It's about your five senses: seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, for the way it is right now. And that's what it means to be in the present moment. So as I've said in the past, at a very young age, and I mean very young, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, my friends' twins, the twin daughters, they would teach each other their techniques. Like, like one girl got hurt by this kid at school, and her sister goes, well, and I was watching them from the kitchen, and she goes, well, when people are mean to me, what I do is I come home and then I take a hot bath and I just cry and I put bubbles in there, and then I go and I lay down, and then I'll come out and eat some ice cream and then turn on the cartoon. So they're teaching each other little things like, here's what I do to get over it. In other words, here's how I deal with reality. Whereas men, they literally hide behind their logic. And I began to notice that when I was trying to teach men how to open up to connect with women on a deeper, more emotionally meaningful and fulfilling level. Well, you have to open up to your right brain to do that. And a lot of men would open and screw that, and then they close back up. So I began to realize a lot of men are just not comfortable, and they literally hide behind their logic from reality. See, it's easier to deal with reality when you're not connected to your five senses. Like, you can go to war as long as you're in your extreme left brain and bombs and missiles and guns are going off and, bad things are happening. You can deal with it a lot better when you hide far, far in your logical brain. Because now you're not associated. Now you're disassociated, meaning you're disconnected from your five senses. Now, this is going to kind of blow your mind. So here you are, an empath, very used to being... See, the two teenage girls, or actually they weren't even teenagers, I think they were 10 or 11. They were learning and developing techniques on how to deal with hurt and emotional pain, whereas men are like, nope, screw that. I'm just going to hide behind my logic. So by the time a girl is about 17, 18 years old, they're really good at dealing with emotions and reality, whereas men are like, no, it's just logical. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Disconnect from feelings. Oh, and by the way, guys, there's a series of techniques that I teach you on how to deal with emotions. And if you've been following my videos, you've heard quite a bit of me talk about and teach some of these techniques on here. So now watch this. Okay, so now you've got empaths that are very used to their emotions and being completely, fully in the right brain, completely associated, feeling. In fact, the more associated we are, the more vibrant the colors, the food tastes great, and music sounds great, and visually things look great. Like, it's amazing. Whereas narcissists, narcopaths, so the narcissists and psychopaths, they're the complete opposite. They're like, screw that, I don't want to feel nothing. I'm going to go far. And have you ever noticed how narcissists can be very just black and white with everything they're thinking? Even their food, it's like salt and pepper, that's it. It's funny because salt and pepper is black and white, just like the left brain, black or white thinking. This is going to blow your mind, what I'm about to say. So you know how the narcissist essentially shut you off and you felt completely disconnected from God? You felt like you had no more spirit. Like it almost was like they stole your soul. And that's what you thought. for about 6 months to a year, maybe even 2 years, and eventually it comes back. But remember how much it freaked you out, like you were in, like life was death, like everything was black, everything was dark. It was just this horrible, terrifying experience. Remember that? For those of you, if you're there right now, trust me, keep going. You're going to come out of it. It's going to take time, but you will come out of it. And you'll come out better and stronger. And you'll have more colors and flavors and sounds and sights and everything. Life gets better in every way. So here's the point. So as much as you went into this horrible nightmare experience, well, here's the funny thing, the flip side of the coin. The narcissist opened up around you, and that's what flipped them out. This is why they attacked you so viciously, because they were trying to close you down. Because by you being so open, you opened them up, and that freaked them out. That was their nightmare. Now, isn't that funny? Your world that you absolutely thrive in, you enjoy, it's wonderful. You literally will do things like get a massage, meditate, eat healthy so you can go into that space because you enjoy it so much. Whereas to a narcissist, it is literally hell to them. It is literally hell to them. It is their worst nightmare. Have you ever heard, what do they say about people like, what are you hiding under a rock? That's a narcissist. They are literally hiding under a rock. They do not want to have anything to do with reality. Flavors, sounds, colors, vibrancy, screw that. Because they do not want to deal with any kind of emotional pain, sadness, anything at all. They just don't, they're like, no. Now, remember how I told you that humans have this, it's like not a machine, but it has a program where we are rapport gaining machines. So if you hang out with someone long enough, you're going to start becoming like them. On top of that, the narcissists were using tactics to get you to shut down. And just by you being in your energy, you didn't actually do anything to them except say, hey, let me give you a massage. Or to you, these were like nice, kind, innocent things. Or, hey, let me make you a certain meal and eat healthy, so you can be more grounded. They're like, screw that. God, it's so funny. The very thing that they were attracted to was the fact that you're so grounded and open emotionally, because they want to feel that. They want to feel wonderful emotions. They just don't want to deal with anything else that goes along with it. All right, so you know how I keep saying like they don't want to deal with reality at all? Have you ever noticed how their reality, what's the word? Their reality structure, the reality base just like does not exist, or like you start to realize like, wow, these people are delusional. The reason is because they do not connect with the reality. They do everything in their power to avoid it. And this is one of the reasons why their stories don't match up, and you're just like, wait, dude, wait, that doesn't make any sense. You literally just said this 5 minutes ago. They don't have a reality-based structure, and therefore everything's kind of delusional. It's kind of, what's the word? Everything kind of blends into everything, and nothing makes sense. And now, when you call them on and say, hey, that doesn't make any sense. You literally just said this 30 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago. You have to understand their brain doesn't amalgamate. That's a right brain process. So if they say something right now, 15 minutes later, 5 minutes later, they might be in a totally, completely different thought, and those thoughts don't have any connection. So when you start like connecting these things or pointing out how they're not connected, it's almost like you're bringing in two different personalities or two different worlds at the same time, and their brain is just, yeah, and they will scream and yell, and this is why they'll flip out on you. Because the left brain keeps everything separate, whereas the right brain connects the pieces of the puzzle to see the bigger picture. If you start to point out that there's two different pieces, they're going to be, because their left brain can't do this, and they don't want to leave their left brain. So what you're forcing them to do is you're forcing them to go into their reality brain, the right brain, and this is, to them, this is their hell. Like, you know how dealing with Satan and going to hell is like the most terrifying thing like in the entire universe? To them, going into reality is the same fear. It's the same level of fear. So you know how narcissists will purposely do things to hurt you and to scare you, like gaslighting and lying and just everything from gang stalking and all the horrible things they do to you that terrifies you. They think that when you're going, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. I thought you said 5 minutes ago, blah, blah, blah. To them, it isn't, but it's almost like they take it as, you're attacking me. Why would you do this? And it really flips them out. Just as much as when you started looking at them like they're the worst monster in the world, because the sick and cruel techniques and tactics they did to you. Now, even though you weren't doing a tactic, you were just trying to go, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. 1 + 1 here equals -17. Wait, that's not basic math. That doesn't make sense. And the minute you start pointing stuff out, they literally lose their shit. And here's why. Everything with them is kind of like this. Everything is like a blurry line. It's like a blending. It's like a separating a division. In other words, one moment they're thinking something and 5 minutes later they're thinking something completely differently. And when they're in this other thought, you can't bring the other thought in because all of a sudden they go, oh wait, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's like, God, how to explain this? It's like they can't be in two thoughts at the same time. Because their thinking is not based on reality at all. It's based on, okay, in this split moment, in this very second right now, I want this and I'm not getting it because this person is saying this, so I have to say something that gets them to give me what I want. And if 5 minutes ago they said they were totally against doing that and now they're doing it, your brain goes, wait a minute, you just said that. So, how to explain this? The left brain is so good at separating and dividing things that when they do this, year after year after year, like conversation after conversation after conversation, that reality doesn't exist to them anymore, even though it was 5 or 10 minutes ago. It's almost like they're in a totally different book now. They're in a totally different world now, and that reality over there doesn't exist anymore because that's not going to help me get me what I want. At least what I want right now. Now, tomorrow or 20 minutes from now, I might go back to that other reality because that'll help me get what I want. So it's like they have a completely different set of beliefs, rules, and values in all these different phases. Because whatever I got to say right now to get what I want, and they'll change their beliefs, they'll change their rules, they'll change what they say, they'll change what they believe, and you're left there spinning, going, what the hell is going on here? So you know how I keep saying the left brain, especially if you go into the far, far left brain, it's literally like looking under a microscope. And it's very good for looking under a microscope. That's like literally the perfect part of the brain to use for that. Well, under a microscope, you only use one molecule with another one or one bacteria and you drop maybe a vitamin E. Like, how does that interact? And everything else is completely pure. It's like even the water is like 99.7% pure, 96.7 or something. It's so pure that they delete everything in reality. And that's the way a narcissist looks at things. It's almost like right now I'm looking under this microscope and there's an amoeba and I'm going to add this one thing to it and that's it. If you add anything else to that, they are going to lose their shit because in that moment, that's their reality. So if you want to talk about the other subject, well, we have to change not only slides, but we have to change entire microscopes to look over. So let's walk over here and look under this microscope. So you can't combine realities in their brain. It's not even realities, it's just different pieces of the whole reality. They don't like that. Okay, so to wrap this up, the extreme left brain, which most narcissists are very, very far to the left, it's like completely different realities, and you cannot connect those realities ever. Being a right-brained person, our automatic thing is, hey, how do we make the connections? And they're like, no, because one reality will disprove another reality, and another reality will disprove this reality. So this is why you kind of got scared, because you're like, I'm dealing with a crazy person. So here's the funny thing. In science, number one, they divide and separate everything into purity, into like literally looking under a finite microscope to the smallest little details, and that's what narcissists do. And it's an extremely pure environment where there's only A and B, and that's it. Nothing else. Because otherwise you will screw up the test. You will screw up what we're trying to figure out and learn. And that's why they can't have anything mixing with anything. Now, do you know what they call this in science? They call it a controlled environment. If you've ever dealt with a narcissist, they're extremely controlling because they're dealing with this new reality that they made up, and this is what we're talking about. And if you try to introduce something from another reality, they're going to be like, no! And this is why they flip out, because it's almost like you're contaminating their scientific study. This is why it's almost like acting, where you know, we're going to make a movie about this book. So you read the book and you know the characters, like, oh, okay. So in this reality, this is real. Like, I mean, even back in the 70s, what was that space science show where this family with a robot got stuck on some planet or the moon or Mars or something like that? Now, obviously it wasn't real. It was complete fantasy. But this is exactly the way narcissists deal with reality. Like, they're separate realities. And all of this comes from the very scientific left brain, where when you look under a microscope, like, there's just this one very specific thing that we're testing. That's it. The environment has to be pure. It's a controlled environment. So very left brain people, not even narcissists, but very logical people, they don't want to deal with reality. It scares the crap out of them, okay? So the only way they'll accept some new information is if a body of people, scientists and doctors that belong to some major corporation or organization like a college or a major university, if they say it's real, boop, now we can open the box and put this new series of events and realities and beliefs in the box, and boop, close the box back up. And anything outside of that's not real, until this organization goes through this process once again. And this is what we call group think. It's people who literally can't think for themselves, and they must go with the group. What does the group believe? What are our leaders telling us to believe? These people are completely blind and oblivious to reality, and they assume so are you. So this is why some people don't believe anything at all, because their group says, oh, we, and they literally say, well, we don't believe that. Real life example, I had an old friend from when I was a little kid in elementary, middle school. I talked to him about probably 8-10 years ago, and he was talking, you don't believe in that spiritual stuff, do you? And so I forget what we were talking about. I said, well, okay, let me ask you a question. What if I told you right now in about 3 seconds, I'm going to take my hand and slice it down through the sun, and the sun's going to completely split in half and go 100,000 miles that way, and the other half is going to go 100,000 miles that way, and you can see the divide. What would you think? He goes, oh, well, you didn't do that. And I said, well, then what do you think happened? I said, oh, it's obvious. It would obviously be a coincidence. And then he went on to say, I mean, scientifically speaking. I said, so the sun has been there, I don't know if it's 100,000 million years, but all this time, and you just happen to believe that I just am going to tell you I'm going to do this, and then I do it with my arm, and it just happens to split apart, and you truly believe that it would just be some radically miraculous coincidence that I did it at the exact moment. He goes, well, yes. I mean, that's logical. And I said, that is the most illogical thing I have ever heard you say. And here's what I started realizing about these logical people. They literally don't make any logical sense. And this was the beginning of me realizing that it's logical people that actually are the most illogical of all. And the reason being is because all our brains will delete, distort, and generalize things to minimize, to where we can make sense of stuff. The difference is, number one, narcissists are at the extreme version of that, where they're deleting, distorting, and generalizing like 97 to 99.6% of all information, like looking at a microscope into that controlled environment of that pure, like that slide, like everything, the water has to be pure, and there's only one thing and maybe one other thing, and that's it. And all reality is pushed out. There's just this tiny little specific thing that we're looking at to test. So they will delete massive amounts of information to do this. And because everything is A or B, just like in science, like it's testing, it's called A-B testing. Everything is either A or it's B. So number one, they delete, distort, and generalize. They delete massive amounts of information. And it's either A or it's B. They're either right or they're wrong. And you for damn sure know they're never going to be wrong, because you're the one who's always wrong. And this is why they minimize everything you say, because when they look at something, oh, this is the way it is, it's in a controlled environment. So they will minimize anything that even attempts to alter their reality. So number one, they delete massive information. Number two, they have almost zero flexibility. Whereas the average person, they don't look at it through A or B. They're looking at it through different options. And if you point something out, the average person has the ability to kind of swing over to the other side, take a look at it, and to ponder it. They're much more flexible, and they're willing to consider and take in new information. Hey, I hope this video helped you guys out, helped you understand narcissism a little bit better. I'm going to leave it at that. This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Remember, click subscribe, click the like button. Go ahead and make a comment if you want. There's a donation PayPal link right there in the description box. God bless you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.